Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Curut Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2003 slasher horror film titled Freddy vs. Jason. Now, of course, Freddy vs. Jason is the epic showdown between two of the greatest movie monsters from the 80s and 90s. They've made a ton of sequels over the past few years. Jason Voorhees, of course, made his debut in 1980, whereas Freddy Krueger, the iconic star of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, made his debut in 1984. Since then, they had spawned off a myriad of sequels, and basically these were the two guys who made and carried the slasher film genre the way it was. Well, finally, at the long last, people have been often wondering who would win in an epic battle between two of the great movie monsters of the 80s and 90s, between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Now, this movie runs for 1 hour and 38 minutes long. It is directed by Ronny. It is produced by Sean S. Cunningham. The script was written by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift, based off of the characters by its creators Wes Craven and Victor Miller. The score was done by Graham Revell, the cinematography by Fred Murphy, and it was edited by Mark Stevens. Now, the stars of the movie, of course, when it comes to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, who else can play Freddy Krueger? None other than the living legend himself, Mr. Robert Englund. Also joining us is Ken Kirzinger as the iconic Jason Voorhees. I think he's like the fourth or fifth actor to ever portray Jason Voorhees. Anyways, he's in it too. Spencer Stump plays the part of a young Jason Voorhees, a tortured camper who dies by drowning from a group of bullies. And then eventually he comes back as this evil entity and has been killing off, slashing off campers and counselors at Crystal Lake since his debut in 1980. Also joining the cast includes Monica Keena, Jason Ritter, Kelly Rowland, who was, of course, a member of Destiny's Child. Jason Ritter, of course, is the son of the late John Ritter. Also joining us, we have is Chris Marquette, Lochlyn Munro, Katherine Isabelle, Brendan Fletcher, Zack Ward, Kyle Labine, Chris Gauthier, Jesse Hutch, and Tom Butler. Well, it was a long time coming that we never thought we would ever get to see. Yes, that's right. But thankfully, that moment has arrived. The battle between the most iconic slasher film monsters that took over cinemas during the Halloween season during the 1980s finally had their opportunity to clash in a battle for monster supremacy while killing a bunch of stupid, naive kids along the way. The Elm Street dream-stalking demon, Freddy Krueger, sporting those terrorizing claws, and the terrorizing fiend from Camp Crystal Lake with a mask who carries a machete, will definitely go to great depth to outdo one another and then clash for bragging rights to be crowned the king of the monsters. Under the direction of Ronny, who in 1998 directed Bride of Chucky, seems to be an admirer of 1980s slasher films, as we slasher fanatics are treated to a double feature rolled into one package before the climax proceeds. And sure, there's some origin stories for the younger audience who weren't allowed to watch these movies back then. there is really little need for introduction for them anyway. So basically, if you didn't see it from the beginning, too bad. Or you just have to watch them from the beginning and then come back to us later on to see the epic battle between Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. They both do their familiar routine of killing teenagers, but the vast majority of attendees who will see this movie are definitely more for the older fans of the 80s slasher films and for the purpose of nostalgia over getting the spooks. But surprisingly, the graphic bloodbaths are twice as gruesome than the spook fests that we see today. Yes, these days I sometimes feel a little bit disappointed in the way how slasher films have kind of died out, and that now it's all about jump scares. It's all about spooks doing over the top in front of the screens just to scare the shit out of us until our hair goes gray. As you can see right here. I'm getting old. But anyhow, yeah. But if you're a big fan of the 80s slasher films, you'll definitely feel that need for great nostalgia. And also, there's plenty of, aside from the constant myriad of slashing teenagers, either while with a machete or while just getting them in their dreams. Um, there's also, like in most of these slasher movies, there's a lot of really dark humor that comes into effect. And the worst part about well, it's not actually the worst part. The best part about it is that unlike the horror films today, these movies from the 80s and 90s, the slasher stuff, well, at least you could say that none of the characters portrayed in the movies ever took themselves seriously. You see, that's what's kind of lacking in today's horror films. Everybody takes these horror films way too fucking seriously. I mean, come on, get a grip. This is a slasher movie. It's not fucking Shakespeare. So why so serious? I mean, chances are your favorite human character will more than likely die because in the end everybody dies except for maybe one last person who decides to duel it out with the monster of their choice, and it's done with. I mean, there's no need for character analysis or character development because chances are they're not going to be stuck long enough for us to get invested in because we don't care about the teenagers who die. All we care about is the two biggest names that ever hit the slasher film genre in the 80s and 90s, and I'm talking about Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. And as long as they can dish out the torture, the pain, the malice, that's all we really want to see. We don't care about the backstories of the kids they killed. Nobody gives a fuck about them. They're almost practically fucking rat bait as it is already. For those who like to see killings by the numbers will not be disappointed, as the body count is actually quite impressive. The protagonist in the middle of the carnage is a young blonde girl named Laurie Campbell, played by Monica Keena, who becomes the catalyst for uniting these two villains together. The idea of a town gathering its citizens to destroy this evil being has great creepy intentions to the likes of Freddy killing his victims in their sleep and telling wisecracks while doing so. I mean, the reason how they think that they could get rid of this beast is simply by putting these kids in heavy medication so that they don't think about what what could possibly happen if this evil entity was to creep into their dreams and slash them. But somehow It turns out these pills just ain't doing the trick. It's a shame that the script could have been fleshed out a bit more, as a plethora of ideas were right there in front of us. Instead, we get the age-old stalk and stab routine. Then in the last half hour comes the ultimate showdown of these evil icons. Yeah, I know that we have to kind of wait patiently for Freddy and Jason to have their showdown, but in the meantime, let's go on a bit of a killing frenzy because, like everything, we all need a story. So, as much as the story doesn't have any kind of signs of importance, I guess to keep the film running, we gotta have to have ourselves a little bit of a story. But still, nonetheless, it is here to entertain. It's not here to change your life. It's not here to make life altering decisions. It's not Shakespeare. It's not going to be impressive with its dialogue or any of that shit. No, we're just here to have a good time. Grab some popcorn and have ourselves a few scares and maybe even a few chuckles. There is no life altering drama. There's no Shakespeare. There's no Oscar caliber stuff like that. No, 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 no. This is all just fucking scares and nothing more, nothing less. And if you don't like that, kiss my ass. No, I'm just kidding. With his working expertise in the Hong Kong filming industry, Yu is able to make his climactic showdown filled with fantasy, plenty of macabre, but most of all, full of entertainment. That's all there is to it. As surreal as it is, we couldn't care less. It was fun seeing Freddy beating around Jason in the boiler room headquarters, or Jason dismembering Freddy's limbs. The visual and special effects are handled with great precision, and it truly makes up for the formulaic 2/3 of the movie. And even though the motives behind Freddy and Jason will no longer generate shock value like it did in the 80s, because as long as there's currency in their value, Hollywood will likely make another sequel. Whenever that will be, I don't know. Or maybe they'll just do another showdown, just like they did with, Alien and Predator. They did this too with Freddy and Jason. We'll probably see another showdown between somebody else. Maybe we might see something like Chucky versus Annabelle. That could be an idea. Yeah, so don't count your chickens and say that this is their final showdown because it could happen again. They could be coming back again. I mean, after Jason finally defeats Freddy, Freddy lets out a little bit of a wink, meaning that you got me this time. You won't be so lucky next time. So don't be surprised if Hollywood will make another sequel or remake or a reboot to their respective names. Who knows? Maybe we might have a triple threat that could be in the works with Robert Shea, founder of New Line Cinema. We might see Michael Myers join the party. And that will definitely make people's heads spin. I would actually go for that. Throw Michael Myers into the mix. For Jason fans, it's a step better than that awful Jason X. And for the Freddy fanatics, it's definitely at the same level as Nightmare on Elm Street for the Dream Master. And even though Wes Craven, well, he's not with us anymore, his creation could still make big bucks at the box office, but the Dastardly Duo's best years are truly behind him. And, also, I don't even think Robert Englund would probably be in line to reprise his iconic character, Freddy Krueger. And if somebody does take over the role of Freddy Krueger, he, or maybe even a she, you never know, maybe they could do some gender swapping and turn Freddy Krueger female, but I really don't think so. And I don't know. I can't really ever see that happening. But more than, and I'm not trying to be sexist either, by the way, but, I don't think anybody who will replace Freddy Krueger or Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, I don't think anybody could ever really fully replace him. And by God, I hope they never, one of the things I hope they never do is turn him into a CGI algorithm. That's the last thing I want. I don't want to see Jason Voorhees becoming a CGI graphic hologram algorithm, whatever. And the same thing is, I don't want to see even Freddy Krueger to also go stoop to that level. Just because people will think it's probably more convenient to just hire a voice actor and just turn them into CGI stuff. People are not going to sit there and fall for that bullshit. So we want to keep him as real as possible. If they ever decide they want to do a franchise, another sequel, another spin-off, or a reboot, let's try and not overdo it with the CGI effects. Let's try and keep it as real as you can by having real actors play these characters, even through all the long hours of heavy makeup and prosthetics and whatnot. It is worth it. So with all that said and done, in the end, this was actually something that was a long time coming, and it was something that was long awaited in people's minds. This was something that kind of looks like something that could be taken out from a fan fiction website where you would have two very iconic characters being put to the test to see who's the better monster. It is such a great honor. I mean, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees have done a wonderful job of keeping the characters real. Well, of keeping the characters scary and keeping them entertaining. Freddy Krueger always is good with his tongue-in-cheek humor. Jason Voorhees, he always seems to have some different, original, innovative ways of killing his foes. And yeah, okay, over the years with their long sequels and things like that, people do notice that, hey, it's repetitive. It's like you go in and you see one, you've seen them all. Or some people will just dismiss it and say it's total trash. Well, I'm going to tell you something. You're not 100% wrong. It is trash, but it's enjoyable trash. We go to the movies to escape. We don't go to the movies to face realities here. And these guys have done a great job of keeping us entertained, keeping us intrigued, and having these two go at it really, really puts a great feeling of youth into me. So when all is said and done, if I was to give this movie a scale out of 10, I would give Freddy vs. Jason an 8. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, yeah, go right ahead. But just remember the 3 simple rules: be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.